You are at Challenge 6. Challenge 6 is a great challenge. My teaching partner, Andrew, always says it's the best challenge, but it might be the most complicated challenge that you have, you experience today. So what you're going to need for this challenge, oh, it looks like we need to put some more of these on the table, too. I'm falling down on the job here. You'll all need one of these. It is a test blueprint. I'm going to put some more on that table, and open your blue book to page 37. Those are the two things you'll need.
Can I have one more book right here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Here you go. These are for you to keep, so you can take them with you when you go. Does everybody have one? Is there anybody who doesn't have one? Okay. I am really excited about this. You know, I came from Washington State to Boise State, and one of the things that teachers and principals in Idaho have consistently said has been frustrating about the ISAT is that they really never have had any training or experience in the target, in what's on the ISAT. How is it constructed? How many of this kind of type of item and how many of another kind? The blueprint just wasn't published and wasn't largely distributed in Idaho. I came from a state where it really was distributed, and I know that teachers and principals gained a lot from it. So I was pleased when we saw that right up front, even though it's preliminary, the Assessment Consortium has put out this blueprint. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend some time together learning a little bit about what you can get out of this blueprint. So your challenge will be to take a quiz starting on page 37. You can work together at your table. You don't have to work alone. And you really just need to answer the first 4 questions, because we're going to collectively as a whole group answer the last question. And we'll get a little bit deeper into the blueprint. So I'm going to let you have some time now. On page 37, answer the first 4 questions using this blueprint document. Now I'll tell you, you're going to be using the first 8 pages only. So the answers for these questions will be in the first 8 pages. Then we'll talk more about this document. Okay, let's talk about questions 1 through 4. Purpose of the SBAC preliminary test blueprint is what? Who can? All of the above. D, all of the above. Does all of those things. Computer adaptive testing, or CAT, means all of the above. Are you noticing a pattern? Do we want you to choose C? No. We want you to choose D, because what is the answer to the last one? D, all of the above. All righty. Smart group, good group. All right, let's talk about the vocabulary a little bit that you can benefit from to get meaning from the blueprint. Obviously, a blueprint in general life is a plan to build something. What is this blueprint? A plan for the test. This tells us what the test is going to have. It's the plan for construction. They actually use this. The test makers actually use this document to create the test. What is content in this context? All right, standards, indicators, and claims. That's the stuff being tested, and those are the words that we use to describe the stuff being tested, the content. Emphasis and balance. Why is that important? What is it?
Number of items or percent of points for standards and indicators.
Okay, gives us an idea about what's going to be emphasized and the balance between the content that's going to be emphasized, the number of items. Item types. What's that referring to? You can do it. Amanda, what's item types?
I wrote down the learning expectations.
Okay, the learning expectations.
How to measure them.
And how to measure them. Okay, so there are certain kinds of expectations, and then the ways that we measure them matter. So sometimes a multiple choice kind of item is a better way to measure it. Sometimes it takes a performance task. Sometimes it's a short answer. So the test will have all different kinds of items on it. And that very last one, depth of knowledge, what is that referring to? Okay, how complex the test item actually is. Now, one thing I didn't tell you when you started is that this document, strangely, is numbered 3 different times. The first 8 pages you use to answer questions 1 through 4. If you were to go to the next page, you would find that instead of number 9, it says number 1 again. The reason that well, we're not really sure what the reason is that the document is numbered 3 different times, except that it has 3 parts. It has that front matter that you used. Then the second part is the English Language Arts Blueprint. And the third part, which we're not going to look at a lot today, is the Math Test Blueprint. So what I want you to do is now turn to the second number 1 and 2. Second number 1 and 2, and open it up big so you can see both pages. This is actually on these 2 pages, the blueprint. I'm going to tell you something I know by just looking at it. This is the blueprint for language arts, ELA literacy, grades 3 through 5. I know that because it says it right there. What else can you tell me by looking at these 2 pages about this particular test? Okay, say something about claims.
Items in each claim.
Okay, the number of items that are going to be tested, the number of items used to test each claim. What else can you tell me? Okay, what about the content categories? For instance, what do we know about reading? Looking at content categories. Oh, great, 2 major. And how many items on, how many on literary? How? Okay, listen to the question real carefully. How many items can we expect that will be used to test literary knowledge of literary text? 6 to 8. How about informational? 6 to 8, so it's 50-50. Guess what? If we look at the 6th through 8th grade test or the 11th grade test, that ratio changes with a greater number of informational items than literary. So important to know. So that's the minimum to the maximum that you're going to see there. It's going to be between there. What else can you tell me about this test?
Haven't decided what percent each claim will be rated.
Okay, they have not decided the weight. Why do you think that would be? The weight of items. We haven't piloted it. It's not a full field test, and a full field test has not occurred. So it will be after this coming spring that the weightings will be determined. How many performance tests on this assessment? 2 or 1?
1 A and B though.
Okay, there's 1 stimuli with 2 parts. What is it testing? Writing and research. Writing and research. How many points for research? 3 points for research. 3 for writing, 3 for research. 1 stimuli. Do we currently score or test for research on the ISAT? No, and we have standards actually that begin in kindergarten, of developmentally appropriate standards, but there are actually research standards and the new standards in the core that start right out with kids being able to learn to think. We'll be revisiting why that's important this afternoon. So now what I want you to do is just flip a few pages to page 5 and 6 and open it big like this again so you can see 5 and 6. So I think of it this way. If the last table that we looked at is sort of like the general blueprint, this is more specific, 2 minutes, thank you. This is more specific, kind of like plumbing and electrical planning. Okay, so this is getting even more specific. Now what can we tell about this test? Okay, they've added some assessment targets. So they've broken down those claims and the content into even more specificity. We know what about those content areas of those claims are going to be tested. How about that funny looking column that has the formula that looks like a math formula? What do you think that's about? Don't know? Some guesses? Okay, the key at the bottom. That is telling you the probability that an item like that's testing whatever will show up on the test. So let's take a look at one. Look at reading, then look at literary, then go over to key details. Follow that over, and when it says minimum cat items, P1 equals 0.5. That means you have a 50% chance that there's going to be at least one test item that's going to test key details. But go one down to central ideas. What's the percentage we're going to have a test item on that? 100%. So that's what that column is telling you, is the chances that there'll be an item that's going to test that specific assessment target.
What are the justifications for having a test item be only 50/50?
Like only having a part of, like 50% chance that you'd have that on there?
What are the justifications behind that?
That's a really good question, and that'd be a good question to ask TJ this afternoon.
Okay.
It is about prioritization, but why, for instance, on this test, would they have a lower prioritization for key details versus main ideas? Good question. I don't know. I don't have the expertise, but it's a judgment call made by the blueprint makers, test makers. Anything else about this? What do you know about depth of knowledge here? Are we testing some items at a pretty complex level? Okay, thank you. Let's take a look at just reading before I let you go. Literary reading. What is being tested at a pretty high depth of complexity? Level of complexity. Okay, 5, 6, and 7. They're all up there.
4.
And 4. Yep. Alrighty. You get to take this with you. You're going now to the big room. Now, challenge 1. Good job.